morning to Mike Gage and episode number 5.
I can't believe we're already at 5. It's pretty exciting.
It's been great, man. It goes by quick. It's actually very enjoyable to do these.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yep, it's nice. I think we're getting better at it too.
Well, we're learning each other and, kind of flowing a little bit better each week.
I think so. We're getting more listeners, so there's definitely people are liking it. We're doing something right.
Were we getting close to 400 now?
We are.
Yeah,
we are. So
we'll hit 1,000 here before long.
I think at 500, Spotify gets you a Bentley, right?
Yeah,
or Learjet.
We'll take it. We'll take whatever they want to give us.
Campaign Bentley. Good deal, brother. Well, how was this week with meeting folks? You
yeah, we had a great week. Went to the Serbian Holy Trinity Church and for their food festival, and got to tour the church and meet a lot of the people that attend that church and those services there. So that was a lot of fun. And then of course last night we had the bingo event, and we've got quite a few events happening this weekend, and kind of changing up how we used to. We used to announce what events we were going to be at, and I think we were putting out there too much where it was encouraging our opponents to show up to those same events. So we decided that, we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to show up, and once we get there and the event starts, we're going to post where we are. So,
Yep. Nothing's more awkward than when you show up at prom and somebody else has got the same tuxedo.
Yeah. So we figured that out pretty quick. It didn't take long. So we're changing our strategy there, and but yeah, we've got some events this weekend as well, and some events next week. So yeah, pretty busy weekend, and next weekend as well. So really looking forward to it.
Well, that sounds good, man. So to be announcing those events, or are you just showing up?
We'll announce them when the event starts.
Okay.
So yeah, where it's too late for anybody else to show up. So once that event starts, we'll post where we're at.
Just a suggestion, you might want to say, just as a ruse or a joke, that you're going to be doing some fundraising at the police headquarters. Maybe your competition will show up for work.
Show up for work one day, you'll be seen. It's kind of fun, we get a lot of people that when we're at the events like, I haven't seen him for 8 years, but he's showing up at events now. It's election year.
Oh, you got see, this guy's already following Mike Gage. It's a no-brainer to vote for this guy. I mean, the sheriff is already following him.
Yeah, I mean,
showing up at his events.
Yeah, calls my ex-wife.
Next thing you know, he's going to call his ex-wife.
Oh, that's already happening. So, I get the copies of the voicemails where they're calling, leaving messages, wanting her to sit down and talk to him. And so she called me yesterday. She goes, "How can I make this stop?" She goes, "If I give you a campaign donation of $450, she goes, will they be able to see that?" And I said, "Yeah, it'll be on my campaign finance report here on the 15th. She goes, "Check your Venmo. There's $450 from her." So yeah, she's
paid him to go away.
Yeah, she's trying to stop those phone calls, and yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's she sends me the voicemails that they're leaving for her, and yeah, it's pretty entertaining stuff. So but hey, we need the $450, so they're helping my campaign out. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's not creepy at all that he's doing. But then again, in politics, there's usually no gloves on. But I guess the next thing is there'll be a commercial.
Oh yeah.
Mike Gage cheated on a science test in 2nd grade. Don't vote for him.
Yeah, you know something's coming, but it's the stuff I'm reporting on is out there in the public. We're talking to the officers, we're talking to the community, finding out, what the problems are. And again, we've got a plan to fix the problems. Yeah. And they don't seem to have a plan, and they know I have a plan, so they're going to start digging. So yeah, it is what it is. So
yeah, I'm sure they will. It's getting closer. And obviously this makes me happy because we know we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And clearly there's some concern.
Oh,
I mean, that's a big deal for them to reach out to the ex.
Oh yeah,
because
I wouldn't even think about doing that.
No, nobody wants to talk to wants to talk to anybody's ex, let alone their own. And then they're gonna have to call somebody. Yeah, and they know what he's doing, right? He's hoping she'll say, "Oh, he was this," say something disparaging. But there's nothing disparaging. Clearly, his ex-wife is completely amicable. She donated money to his campaign.
Well, and I told her, I said, "Hey, would you mind following my page?" And last I knew, she didn't have Facebook, so she was her brother's a police officer in Kansas City.
Okay.
And so she had been using his page to follow, but I think we've got her convinced to get on Facebook and follow my page just to eliminate anything that they're going to try to come out with. So she'll stick up for us. So
good deal. Good deal. No, that's great. And it's a class act. That's good. That's kind of comical. We could get some mileage out of that.
Hey. Nothing shocks me, so you got to be prepared for everything. So
I could see the commercials coming up. It's like those the commercials out for Shady Seedy. They keep trying to toss that poor guy in the grease.
Oh yeah. I've heard some of the stuff. I've just been so focused on what's going on in Butte that I haven't had a chance to really follow the state and national to see.
It's one of those weak attempts at smearing, just like what just occurred with him calling. Only they paid $30,000 to have a commercial done for it, where they're, he's an outsider that keeps Montanians from hunting on his private land. I'm like, wait a minute, it's his private land.
Why
don't you go hunting somebody's land without talking to him first, or getting there?
I guess if I had private land, I wouldn't want people hunting on it either. So
not without permission. There's liabilities involved.
Right. Oh yeah, you can get sued pretty quick. I know that from the insurance business.
I mean, look at my place. I don't want to come out here and have coffee in the morning and see 30 people with hunting on my land.
Yeah, just wait. You got about another 2 months, and you're gonna see it out there.
You're like, morning, neighbor. I'm like, when did you get here? Yeah. So I don't blame them. I guess if I ever run for office one day, they'll have a smear campaign.
Yeah,
Seedy Michael won't let him hunt on his land.
Opening weekend, you're gonna see him everywhere sitting out here. You're gonna you better be ducking, because I've seen a war zone break out up here on the mountain when herd of elk come down. So yeah, it'll be fun. But enough about that. Let's get started into today's talks. And I know we were going to finish up from last week on some training issues. Obviously, we had an incident in the jail this week, and so we'll cover some of those topics. I got to speak with some of the detention officers. And another big problem that I've known about for a long time we haven't discussed is some problems in the 911 center with dispatch, and a lot of issues going on there too. And so I'd like to get into there. And again, these are all real issues. They're coming straight from the officers, from the dispatchers, from the detention officers. So they're reaching out. They want change. So
I think everybody wants change. That's for sure. And clearly, like I said, it's getting to them because they're stooping low these days. Yeah. So you're having a positive effect. Good job.
Yeah, we're making some headway
for sure. So let's talk about that then with the training, because we kind of went through that last week. Just to continue on from that, we discussed how there hasn't been any significant range training or any type of live fire training where they're having pop-up targets, they're shooting on the run. Everything's been static targets, no dynamic targets. Beyond that, what else have they? I mean, do they do taser training? Do they do tactical takedowns, holds, and locks for subduing a combative suspect? I mean,
if you go back a couple of episodes, I think we spoke about the training, and that I told you and the listeners then that everything has been online training.
Everything, okay.
Everything's been online training, and so to answer your question, no. And most of these officers haven't done any defensive tactic training, anything like that, any ground fighting since the academy.
No shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you're talking officers that have been 2 to 3 years now that, and younger, or with less time on, that haven't done anything. I mean, and those are things. Now, I know there are officers out there that take it upon themselves
to do
training, whether they're part of the gym or part of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or the Taekwondo, whatever's going on here. Right. I know there's officers that take it upon themselves. Well, and you have to. I mean, if the department's not going to train you and doesn't have the money to train you, or doesn't want to put on the training because they have to pay overtime, and maybe they don't have any money for overtime to train their officers, but we'll go into that pretty quick too. We know where that money's going.
You find that.
We know where it's going, but So no, they don't do anything, and I know that there's a member of the fire department here that teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he offered training classes. He offered to put on free training for the department, for the police officers, and just on some ground fighting things, and showing them some moves and that they could use, with a handgun, keeping, that they got to keep control of their sidearm and things like that. And they refused it. So free training for the officers, and
they just set these poor officers up for failure completely. I mean, fighting is like what I commented on about shooting last week. You have to use it or you're going to lose it. You can't learn it once and you're just a badass after that. This isn't a movie, right? I mean, it's not like, look at Mike Tyson when he retired and came back a few years ago. I mean, he was chubby, slower, and
he's a shell of what he used to be. Right. He can still hit.
He can still hit, but I mean, he's not as good. He'll get smoked by a younger guy. Yeah. Since then, he's been training harder, but that's a different conversation or topic. Point is, you gotta have consistent training, and you gotta play like you train and train like you play. Otherwise, these guys are being sent out with just even less tools now. Yeah. Now they don't have tactical hand-to-hand combat tools to subdue. We have dangerous people in this town.
Oh yeah,
they're hollering at signs, flipping off cars, screaming. They're methed out, cracked out.
They're gonna fight.
Right, they're gonna fight. It's absolutely gonna throw hands.
I mean, it's just what I mean. If you've never got the opportunity to fight a little guy on PCP, you want to. Oh yeah. It's gonna take 6 or 7 of you to subdue them, because it is no fun. And I mean, you could put every move on them that and it doesn't affect them.
Zero.
I mean, you basically get your ass beat until you can until you subdue them, because they don't feel anything.
Zero.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I haven't trained on it for probably close to 15, 20 years now. Looking back, probably close to 20 years since I've been in defensive tactics, and I wouldn't remember any of that stuff. I remember it, but it's not by muscle memory, so I wouldn't just naturally do it. You'd have to pause and think about it, because it just wouldn't come naturally.
It's not going to be fluent anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be an ASP instructor, which is the expandable baton. Right. And so I was an instructor for our department, did all the training on that, the recertifications every year, and I could hold my own. Give me expandable baton, and I could do some damage. I mean, I probably still could, but it's not going to be as smooth and as powerful. I mean, I'd have to think about where to hit, where I can hit, where I can't hit, and the different strikes or the different holds with it. It's the same thing. I mean, they don't carry batons here. I've talked to some of the officers, and it's just not part of their outfit. They don't train on it.
I think the ASP is a great tool.
Yeah, I love it. And one of the things about it, it's not only a good tool psychologically, it stops a lot of problems.
It's a de-escalation technique.
Yeah, because when they hear that click and hear that and watch that thing expand, they know it's about to get real.
Well, nobody wants to get hit with that metal ball.
Yeah. I mean, it's painful, and they don't carry pepper spray, and I mean,
sometimes that works.
So yeah, well, the only person it's 100% effective on is the officers, right? Because
it sucks.
I mean, it's horrible, and that's why they train on it. You get sprayed, and then you keep fighting, because inevitably, and we've all done it. You spray somebody, and you end up unintentionally spraying somebody else, but. Right.
It sticks on your skin, and then you shower later.
Yeah, it does work. It's a different. It's just another tool, though, that the officers do have.
It's nice to have options when you need options.
If you need it, and I would definitely probably bring back the expandable baton. And it's not required. I mean, if you're going to get trained on it, we're going to certify you on it. If you want to carry it, if you got too many other things on your belt or on your vest, now, hey, you don't have to carry it, but you're going to get trained in it, so that if you do, if you want one.
I would urge, the officers to consider carrying it, because it's a great, not for necessarily, it's not necessarily intended for what it looks like beating somebody. You can't really club a suspect.
Right. I mean, it's
good
to have
for subduing and holds.
Yeah.
You can do arm locks.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't tax your hand and your grip, and you can really crank on the suspect to where they actually stop resisting, and it doesn't hurt them.
It's good for taking out windows too.
It is. It's a great. It's just when you can't find that window punch, you can use an asp to bust that window up. But yeah, no, I think it's a better tool it's a safer tool for the officers once they know how to use it properly, and it's actually better for the suspect too because it's less grappling and ground fighting and more. You can use that.
Yeah, I don't know that most officers. I always carried of course, my background also was in the fire department, so I always had a window punch with me.
Right.
So, but that's the easiest way and the quickest way to take out a window real quick and put a little pressure on it. That window shatters into a million pieces, and you can pull somebody right out the window.
I still have one in my. I always carry one in my truck too. Old habits, but yeah, it's the training. These guys, and this isn't a reflection on the officers. It's not.
No, the officers want to train.
The officers, I'm sure, do. Well, who wants to go into battle without having training and tools, right?
They beg for it. They want to go to classes. They want to do these things. It's just not.
It just leads to believe why. That's the question, Mike. Why? Why does the department not want their officers properly trained when they've been? This is like the 4th or 5th time we've talked about trainings that were offered by certified professionals that. And one of them was from another agency in Washington State had offered, and no matter what it is, the answer is no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want your high speed chase training. No, I don't want your school, shooting, school active shooter training. No, I don't want your jiu-jitsu. I don't care how free it is. These officers aren't interested in your.
Why? I think. The more I learn, the more I've seen it is, viewed as its own place, and I don't think they want the outside world to know what it is that they don't know. And I think you put on these trainings, they're afraid that these outside agencies are going to figure out that they have no idea what to do, and it's a look of embarrassment. And that's how they feel, instead of just saying, hey, we don't know this, we've never tried this, teach us how to do this. I think that's where it's still, I'm baffled to this day, when Spokane, Washington offered to bring to train for emergency management, emergency planning with their tabletop, and the answer was no. It was free. All I had to do, I let the guy stay at my house. They were going to bring their whole trailer over and do all the training for all the departments, and the answer was no.
Yeah. Could pride really drive it that much?
I think it can.
That's pretty. You can't be prideful and arrogant and fast and loose when you have a job like the sheriff,
right?
Because so that's Butte is embarrassed, meaning Butte sheriff's department. That they don't want people to know what they don't know. But the our people, our neighbors here, they probably would have something else to say about that. Like, hey, why aren't you producing the best and the brightest to offer us?
Right. One of the things, we talked about this, and I've had several people, and I'm going to put it out there. Where do I find the crime statistics for Butte? I want to know. So if you're listening and you know where I can find them, please message me. I want, I can find other cities' crime reports. I can go online, I can see where the press is posted, how many cases, how many thefts, how many rapes, how many burglaries, how many homicides, how many assaults, how many stolen vehicles. I can find this for other agencies, and I can find out their clearance rate. So if you know where I can find it, and where it's posted and where it's being released to the public for them to see it, please let me know, because I want to go in and review those numbers. I want to see what's happened here the last 8 years, and because I can see it with my own eyes that it's gotten worse, but I can't find the numbers that indicate that. And where I'm from, we release those to the press. We got the FBI reporting every year. We release those numbers right away. Sometimes they weren't always what you wanted them to be. Right. And sometimes your crime goes way up.
Transparency.
Yeah, but you got to let people know, hey, these are the amount of calls. This is what it went up to. These are the thefts went up to this. Our stolen vehicles. Well, how do we combat that? Well, if you start releasing that information and you need more officers, well, there's your proof right there. It's like, look how much our call volume's gone up. Look at our crime rate. it's going up. We need more officers to combat
Right.
this problem. But if those numbers, if you're not being transparent and those numbers don't exist on paper somewhere, well, then it's really hard to go to bat. So, you know, one of the things we will be very transparent. You know, we will each year give those reports to the public and let them know, hey, this is where we're doing really good. This is where we're doing really bad. And these are the steps we're going to take to try to address where we're not doing so well.
Right.
And I just think that's the way it should be. You know, be honest and transparent with the public and tell them what's going on. You know, make them feel like that they're a part of the solution, because in reality they are. That's the same way with why I want to do the neighborhood watches. You know, that gets us involved with the public, but it allows the public to tell us, hey, this is what we're seeing here that's not being addressed, so we can come up with a plan to address it. And I feel that's going to take care of a lot of crime, because I have people, you know, we did the National Night Out, and I think that was Tuesday night, and there was several people that came up and specifically were asking and wanted to be involved in the neighborhood watch programs, and said they would like to be in charge of it for their neighborhood.
Right.
So there are people out there. I was had been kind of told that, you know, well, you're not going to get the community involvement. And this was from people I trust, you know, that say, yeah, I just don't think it may not work out as well. So I was kind of thinking that might happen, but I've already found out that there are people that want to get involved and they want to be in charge of their neighborhood program and are asking, you know, how can we do this? How can we set this up? You know, I'll help you whatever way. And so, and those were two of our bigger areas that people came up to. So the community is wanting to get involved, and they do want to have a hand in helping law enforcement. The other thing several people asked about was the Citizens Academy that I wanted to start doing, that I've been talking about. And it was interesting because up on Facebook, it popped up, I think it was Monday, that in Helena, that the FBI was doing a Citizens Academy there in Helena.
Interesting.
And so those are things that have been, I mean, like I said, I was very instrumental in getting our very first Citizens Academy off the ground, and that would have been, I'm guessing 99, 2000, somewhere in there. So, you know, these programs have been around for at least 24, 25 years, and they've never made it to Butte, Montana. Although if you look at the surrounding areas, they do them. And, you know, not only the Citizens Academy, but the Explorer units, you know, which again, I helped start that. I mean, I did the whole outline of what we were going to train on. I was responsible for putting together the training classes, you know, what we were going to do with the group. And like I said, you know, there was several officers from several kids from my very first class that became officers, and they're still officers. And, you know, so looking back, you know, you make a difference in those kids' lives, you know, and now they're out there serving and protecting, and you know, all they have, they just came in with no idea what to expect when they first joined the Citizens or the Explorers program, and fell in love with the job. And that's a good recruiting tool. And
I think it repairs a lot of relationships too, that recruiting tool, because you get let's talk about this community using that here. Optics, right? If a law enforcement officer in Butte finds your dog because he was lost and brings it to you, he's your hero, and that's your perception of law enforcement. Law enforcement officer in Butte comes and puts your mom and dad in handcuffs in the back of the car because they did what they weren't supposed to do. Those are also optics that make them think that law enforcement officers are like a Gestapo, or they're bad,
villains,
they're evil villains, and they're coming just to take your family out of your home because that's their side, that's their narrative, right? So I think that Explorer program helps expose and change positive minds to that particular focus when they get older,
right? Because
that's a high school program.
Yep.
So whatever happened in your elementary or youthful years, where your parents or older brother or sister did the wrong thing and had to pay consequences for it, that kid, it gives them a second chance of rewriting that.
Right.
That
I mean,
perception.
you can start early with them. I mean, you can have them
junior deputies, all that. Yeah.
Elementary school, you can do the Adopt a Cop programs and have the police in the school just Just
they just need to have better optics.
Yeah, just eat lunch with the kids and talking to them, and
let them see that.
Yeah, I mean, you can,
regular people,
right? You can go through this through their whole childhood, you know, and through their teenage years to make a difference. And it's very simple things, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. No. And
I'm a big proponent of if you're going to strongly reinforce this law enforcement agency here into the next 20 years, into another generation, you're going to have to reaffirm that relationship with recruiting and the youth of Butte.
Right.
And you put that ownership on the youth of Butte. Don't avoid being called to serve the community. Don't avoid, you know, life and you know, I don't know what I want to do. You know, a lot of kids are going through a lot today where they kind of lost, and you can blame it on social media and video games, and that does play a role, I'm sure, because it's a generation of when we were kids, Mike, we would play outside,
right?
And that's their version of playing outside. Is an alternate, you know, reality of playing a video game where they're talking to their buddy with a headset, but they're not there. But they're that's their version. That doesn't work in the future of real life, right? When you grow up and you move out, you know, if you're going to be a law enforcement officer, firefighter, a Marine, and you know, sailor, an Army Ranger, whatever, you got to be out and interact, right? That's never going to change unless God knows what happens, right? Not even in a thought. But with that program in school, from the time that they're little kids, like kindergarten, first, second grade, all the way up to high school, I mean, you know, that also helps bring them out of their shell, I think. Kind of like an ROTC does.
Absolutely, it does, for sure. Yeah, and we'll get those programs in place. Mm-hmm. You know, we know that the community wants to be involved, and again, I keep saying these are such simple things to do, and they really are. You just got to have people up there to decide this is what we're going to do, and
we got to do it.
Yeah,
because that'll matter in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
When a 5-year-old or 10-year-old right now who has no idea he's going to grow up or she's going to grow up to be an officer gets influenced by meeting you in these programs, and then one day they could be, you know, 25 years from now, they could be, you know, replacing you when you want to retire, you know, from being sheriff or whatever. You appoint them detective, and you remember when they were a kid, you met them in school. So I mean, that's a legacy, and that's important, I think, for the future of our law enforcement here.
I agree 100%, and you know, like I said, you know, we'll get out there, we'll be seen, we'll be actively involved in the public and the activities that are going on in Silverboe County, and we're going to have a positive impact. And I've got the right people. You know, I meet constantly with officers who I want to be, you know, supervisors, who I want to be in my command staff. You know, and obviously there's going to be some changes made, and you know, they're not all fun changes, but I got to get the right people in there to make a difference, and it's going to take us time, you know, and of course you've got union regulations and things of what you can and can't do, so we're trying to go through them, but I've got a list of pretty good people that I know need to be in different roles. Some higher than where they are right now, and some lower than where they are right now. But those changes will happen swiftly, and we'll turn the department around. It will be an instantaneous morale boost for the officers, and we'll make a difference right away, and we'll get that department turned around, and the people excited to come to work again and to be able to do their jobs. And on day one, we will take the handcuffs off of them and of the officers and say, let's get out there, do your job. And we'll go back to the days when you ask somebody politely to do something, then you tell them to do it, and if they still don't do it, then you make them do it. Yeah. And that's the way it's got to be. And you know, there's a lot of officers out there that reach out to me and tell me, you know, they're just can't do anything. We're not allowed to do anything. You know, funny thing, they you know, I got the copy of the email where they said don't arrest anybody. You know, this and that, and then it kind of opened back up. So now they're sending it on instead of putting it in an email, they're sending it to the officers' computers, not in an email, but through their program they use that says, okay, now we're only arresting for violent felonies again. But this way, it's not in an email form.
Right.
So as soon as the officers get the note on their computer, they're texting me and calling me and saying, "Oh, well, now we're not putting it in email because they don't want you to get a copy of the email." But
that was coming.
Yeah, but
they're going to start writing it under a rock.
Yeah, but here it is. And, here's a screenshot of what's on our computer. So, yeah, it's.
I mean, how many law enforcement agencies do you think in this country right now send out emails that say don't arrest anybody? I mean, that can't be very common. I mean, where I came from, the agencies there, the people I worked with, never heard of that. You can't. I mean, even if there's a major, we had Super Bowls in town.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking millions of people showing up on top of the millions who are already there, and they still arrested. They just had holding cells elsewhere. They had school buses they put people. I mean, there was no excuse to break the law and get away with it. Period.
Right. I've never heard that before, but I'm sure somewhere.
There's another scenario.
Yeah, it's happening somewhere.
But it can't be a commonplace.
No, I would say it's not a common thing, but to say it's never happened anywhere, I'd probably be wrong by saying that. So it's obviously probably happened somewhere. I just. But they've got a problem here, and the jail is overcrowded, and they,
to say the least.
I mean, obviously, we all saw the news release of the disturbance that happened in the jail earlier this week, and to what extent it was, the inmates call in to the news and say it's a riot. The sheriff says it was a minor disturbance.
Oh boy! So, what was the truth?
Somewhere. But we had an incident in our jail where we had to remove somebody from the cell, and that person ended up dying during the move. And there were inmates calling. It was a 4-floor facility, and this happened on the first or on the second floor, and there was inmates calling in on the 4th floor saying they saw the whole thing, and and the officers were beating this guy, so who's telling the truth? I probably lean towards more the sheriff on that, saying, considering they said minor, but again, the inmates were saying, they came out and said, we haven't had toothpaste in a month, we've been out, we haven't had toilet paper in days. And so if that's the case, and I know it was the case, I've spoken to a couple of the supervisors in the jail that said, yes, that was the case. And there was a shipment that was supposed to come in. It got delayed. We ran out. We were letting people know nothing was being done. We didn't have any toothpaste. We didn't have the toilet paper. So a decision was made to go to the dollar store, and
this was a decision from the top, right? Get to the dollar store.
No, this was a decision from what I was told. I guess one of the supervisors in the jail made the decision, but the officers were like, no, we're not. We need somebody up above us to tell us this is okay, because you can't bring anything into that jail. You bring it in, it's contraband. You can arrest if an officer's bringing stuff in for the inmates. That's illegal. You can't do that. So the officers were like,
without approval,
right? So they were like, this needs to come from the higher up. So they did call the captain who did give them permission to go to.
That's kind of a no-brainer.
You're getting low. You're going to run out. You're double the capacity. You see this coming days in advance.
You say to the guy,
go get it.
I mean, do you ever run out of toilet paper and toothpaste at home?
Absolutely.
How often do you go without that stuff?
No, I go get it that same day.
Right. You're just like, I'm getting low. I better go to stop by the store, right?
Yeah. I
understand a lot of people could listen to this, and some people have mixed views and say, well, they're in jail, but like,
you still have to provide them
humanely, right? I mean, we don't have 9/11 terrorists in the jail up on the hill. We don't have Charles Manson's and people up there. I mean, these are a lot of people shouldn't even be in there. I mean, we're still incarcerated without being, processed, ankle monitor, and that.
What I would do if I was the sheriff right now, I would go to the county attorney and say, we don't have room. We are
nonviolent offenders.
We don't have the manpower. We're shorthanded.
Right.
We've got 5 or 6 officers working in jail, and you got one person that's stuck in a control room, entering, opening doors and things like that. So, and you've got 150 inmates or 140 some inmates that the jail staff I spoke with last night said when they bring in, the inmates are stealing off the commissary tray when they come deliver commissary, and they are walking up, stealing things off the tray, and that they have no control over it. They literally said, we have no control over the jail. We've lost control of it. They are running the jail right now. They come steal it off tray. We can't do anything. We don't have the manpower to do cell searches.
And that's something else I was going to bring up. Speaking of cell searches, is obviously, if the street and the field officers aren't trained, not trained, but don't have any residual training with their weapons and tools of the trade, I'm assuming the jailers don't have any riot control training, any tactical training.
I don't know what they have, so I don't want to. I would say as fast as they go through them, it's minimal. But they can't do cell search. They don't have the manpower to go in and search the cells away, because it takes you got to bring the inmates out. You've got people that go in and search. You got people that stand outside the cell to make sure that nobody tries to harm. If you don't have the manpower to do that. So what I would do is I'd go to the county attorney, I'd go with the county attorney judge and say, here's my list of people, get them out and get them out now and put them on house arrest, put them on ankle monitoring. We have to get down to a number that we can control safely without putting our officers at risk.
And the inmates.
There's fights. I know they jumped an inmate in the cell, and got a broken hand the other day. If you just listen to the scanner, you can hear the ambulance go up there several times a week to the jail for disturbances. So this is happening. It's happening weekly. There are fights up there, and even if you listen to the inmates that call in, they're basically saying that the officers don't have any control of what's going on right now. That the amount of fights up there, and you have a facility that's meant to hold 78, 79 people. You've got double that in there. You've got no air conditioning, and you're gonna have problems. And they're still human beings. They made mistakes. Everybody in life's made mistakes, but you got to treat them still like human beings, and you can't have it that overcrowded. So you talk to the county attorney, and really it's the county attorney that has these people in jail. She's prosecuted them. She can go to the judge and say, I want to release these people and I want to put them on house arrest. I originally asked you to put them in here for a year. Now I'm saying we have a problem at the jail. It's too overcrowded. Now I'm asking you, I want you to go ahead and release this person on house arrest. You can get that done in a day. You could literally go over there and have the judge sign the paperwork to get them out of jail. So let's do it. If we can release 40 or 50 of them to at least get it to a manageable number for our jail, because this is why the jailers this is why they have such high turnover. And they're going to keep quitting. They are burnt out, and they constantly have to work overtime. They're working 16-hour shifts. And you got to imagine, you have to be on your toes at all times. You're working around people that will kill you or seriously hurt you or kill you 24 hours a day.
Right.
And you can't get away from them. You're stuck in pods with these people. You're locked in with them. And
they're not tossing cells. They're not searching cells. So who's got weapons?
If you've been at work for 16 hours or even longer,
right.
Your brain, you have brain fog after a while. You get so tired. And this isn't a problem just in the jail. Mm-hmm. I've got numerous dispatchers that are reaching out to me.
So dispatchers are miserable too.
Oh yeah.
Basically what I'm hearing so far, Mike, is from the ground up, this is a complete disaster with the agency here as far as management goes.
Yeah, so the dispatchers...
they didn't leave one thing unturned. They even forgot the damn toilet paper.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
So the dispatchers, they work 8 hours, so their shifts are, from what I understand, they work 6 8s. Okay, so there's currently 10 trained dispatchers and 11th one in training right now. and they voted they decided that they wanted to go to 12-hour shifts, and all but 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So if you just say, let's say at the time they had 10 dispatchers, 8 of them wanted to go to 12 hours, 2 of them didn't. The 2 that didn't want to go to 12 hours said that if we went to 12-hour shifts, they were going to quit. Well, this was brought to my attention when I spoke with the union meeting, because I had the dispatchers in the front row, and they said, well, what's your opinion on 12-hour shifts? Would you let us go to 12 hours if the majority wanted to go to 12 hours? And I said, well, absolutely. Personally, I hate 12-hour shifts.
You do?
Oh, yeah. No, there's no way. I can't. I hate 12-hour shifts. I was a 10-hour guy. I love my 10-hour shifts with my 3 days off. But if that's what the dispatchers want to work, because that's what patrol works and that's what detention works, if that's what they want to work, then, and that's what's going to make them happy, well, let them go to 12-hour shifts. Right. Me personally, I don't want to work 12s, but if they want to work 12s, and that's going to bring up the morale and help them.
It also solves the staffing issue. Right.
So the dispatcher's minimum staffing is 2.
2. Okay.
So where they want to be is at 3, but minimum staffing's at 2.
2 there at all times.
2 there at all times.
Come hell or high water.
Right.
2 there.
And that's pretty much where they're at.
Okay.
So if somebody calls in sick or takes a vacation day, well, you can't. I take that back, because you really have to put in vacation long in advance to get a day off. And if it's approved, then pretty much you're responsible for finding
your coverage
for that day. So what ends up happening is you have people that decide, they wake up in the morning and they're like, I don't want to go to work today. And so they're forced to call in sick.
Can you blame them?
No. So you're forced to call in sick. Well, what happens then is that takes them below their minimum staffing and leaves one dispatcher. So you're required, the dispatcher that's currently on is then required to hold over and work another shift.
They work another full shift.
Yeah, so they'll work 16
hours.
They'll work a 16-hour shift. Last month, they had over 40 call-outs. That means 40 people call it off during I know, in 1 month.
How does that go? There's only 10 dispatchers.
I know. So
somebody's got a part-time job calling out.
Yeah. So all the dispatchers are working 70 hours a week to try to cover these shifts. There are several dispatchers this year that already have over 400 hours of overtime. They had 400 hours at the end of July.
Wow. But so 6 months into the year.
6 months into the year.
Hours.
I think in July alone, they exceeded their overtime budget for the entire year in dispatch. Well, so let's say we do go to the 12-hour shifts. Well, what happens then is, if they had the 12-hour shifts, you would have 3 dispatchers on at all times. Okay. So if they went to 12s, they would always have 3 dispatchers on. Mm-hmm. If somebody called in sick, guess what? You're at your minimum staffing. You've still got 2 dispatchers. You don't have to call anybody in. So you just eliminated all that overtime.
Right.
So how many more officers could we hire, or how many more dispatchers, or could we give raises to the dispatchers, because it's all being spent on overtime money. We can give dispatchers a raise. We can give detention a raise. With all the amount of overtime we're spending there, we can give them a raise and hire new officers.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a ton of money. Yeah,
you're spending time and a half.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
and if they eclipse, I don't even know. It's easy to say, like, oh, the dispatchers are banking, man. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you ask them, probably a small percentage might agree. The rest would be like, I'd rather have a normal shift. Well,
they want normal days.
They're fried after 16-hour days.
They're so burnt out.
They're not going to last.
Right now,
be working somewhere else.
Right now, because of the shifts that's going on, there are 4 of them. 4 of the dispatchers who are currently have applications in with whether it be other companies outside of the sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 looking to quit right now because they won't let them go to 12-hour shifts. And so when this was brought up to me, by one of the union members when I said I would let them go to 12s, and then their response was, well, you're going to have 2 officers quit. So the dispatchers were on the front row, and I looked down, I said, is there going to be people quit if you're not allowed to go to 12 hours? And they're all nodding their head yes. And I said, so would it be safe to say that I'd rather be looking for 2 dispatchers than 4 to 6 dispatchers? Right. If 2 of them are that hard to hire, then 4 or 6 is going to be really, really hard to hire.
Right.
And so but again, they're getting ready to have to hire probably 4 more dispatchers because the senior ones are quitting because they won't let them go to the 12-hour shifts. And, because they don't want to upset 2 of them.
Yeah, I think implementing that would be easier if you just hire them with the expectation they're going to automatically be on 12 hours.
Yeah.
All the new ones are going to be turned into the 12-hour shift and phase out anybody that doesn't get on board. Because it's required, right? If it's got to be staffed 24/7, there's 24 hours in a day. Why not have 2 shifts? It's a lot easier to staff 2 shifts than 3 shifts.
And if you've never been in dispatch, it's stressful.
Of course.
And
they're taking the 911 calls.
They're taking the 911 calls, and they're responsible to get as much information as possible
after 16 hours.
After 16 hours, to try to make sure you got to make sure that fire's safe going in. You got to make sure right. EMS is safe. You're looking out for your officers, trying to get them all the information, letting them know, hey, this might be an ambush.
Right.
There's so much stress. I heard that the midnight shift dispatchers the other day had wasn't necessary. It was a guy threatening suicide. He had a shotgun in his mouth.
Okay.
And the wife had got out of the house, but I believe he still had a 10-year-old son with him in the house that he wasn't letting out of the house. And the dispatchers were able to talk the guy in to letting his son leave the house.
That's a good.
And which is an extremely stressful situation. Oh, yeah. And that would be one of those. Those dispatchers are you're amped up, you're stressed,
she's dreading hearing a boom on the phone.
You're trying to talk this guy out of killing himself or hurting his son.
Yep.
So that's one of those probably where when that call's over, you go grab that dispatcher and you go check on him.
Right.
You go make sure, and if you need to do a critical incident and debriefing with them, and make sure that there's somebody there to talk to them. Those are things you do, and
of course that person did a great job getting at least a 10-year-old.
Again,
that's
to
cool
me in most departments that I came from. You're getting an award for that.
Of course.
That probably that next quarter, whether you do quarterly awards or semi-annual awards.
They're on the news, right? They're getting their hands shaking with the sheriff.
Yeah, you're getting an award for that, and they've never heard. Nobody checked on them. Nobody came and said good job.
Really?
Nothing.
No recognition period. Not from anybody.
No, but that's
ridiculous.
That's how it works.
How do you expect people to? I mean, that's just what a disaster this is. I mean, what a disaster. I mean, that they don't even. The entire administration is.
Yeah. So I don't know who the dispatcher is that handled that call.
But do the simple things like say thank you, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's a gift card to a steakhouse.
Right. You did an amazing job, and again, if we win this election, you will be rewarded when you do something like that.
I'm going to switch that to a when we win this election.
So,
calling the shots.
Yeah, it's just sad.
Yeah, dude, that person needs to get recognized. That's ridiculous. That also is a morale booster for competition to his or her peers. Oh, look, they won an award. That everybody. The entire thing is cogs in a wheel, right? It's just sprockets, and without them all turning together in harmony, the entire thing is a disaster.
So I was at the gun show a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys from the American Legion came up to me, and I don't know if I've told you this before, but he said that he was in charge of he wanted to do a Officer of the Year award, and that he had spoken to the sheriff several instances saying, can we do one this year? And the answer has been no. And the reasoning behind it was if You know, somebody might get their feelings hurt if they thought they should have won and they didn't.
So it's a trophy league now.
It is. And so I said, well, I told him, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I win this election. Yes, you can do an Officer of the Year award. Yes, we will participate. Yeah. Yes, we'll send you the nominations, who we think is deserving of it, and you guys make the ultimate choice. If the American Legion's wanting to do this for our officers, you don't turn that stuff down. You try to do everything you can to get your employees recognized for going above and beyond.
And you want to ramp up morale and competition.
Right.
Everything in life's a competition. Everything is. So if people have hurt feelings over it, they need to get over themselves and realize that try harder. You can do it.
We used to do shifts. I mean, we used to have fun. When we used to say, okay, we're going to have a bet, whether it be for who's buying dinner, the next shift,
right.
Like whoever gets the most warrants tonight or whoever gets the most DUIs tonight. We used to do those things, and it made...
And you did them fair and impartial.
Yeah.
Right? Not like, who's going to pull over people for no reason. It's like, here's a list of
here's a list of warrants.
Let's go kick some ass on this list.
Let's see who can get the most out of them.
And you guys owe me breakfast or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's good competition, though. That's normal.
Well, you got to have it.
You have to have it. That keeps morale up.
Yeah, and so we used to do things like that. So those would be little things we'll say. We'll let the shift supervisors run their shifts and say, hey, get them out there, I'll pay for it out of my own pocket. I don't care, but let's let them have some fun and do their jobs
and enjoy themselves and get some morale boosting. Yeah.
But we're going to do other things. We're going to have department parties. We'll do something in the summer. Have a barbecue and award ceremony at least in the summer, and then something more formal in the winter. We'll rent out a facility, but we'll do that. And again, like I've said, it's going to include the current officers, former officers, and so we're looking forward to another big thing this week. Is the former detective who was terminated, wrongfully terminated, and was awarded that federal lawsuit earlier this year. Her case, so she was ordered to be put back to work by the arbitrator.
Okay.
And the judge ruled on it.
Right.
And the sheriff still refused the ruling because he doesn't want her back at work.
Okay.
And so they appealed it to the state Supreme Court.
Uh-huh.
So there's a good chance here this week or next week that the Supreme Court makes their ruling on that case. I think she's been out of law enforcement now for like 5 years, and
no kidding.
Yeah, they may have to bring her back. I mean, they may be forced by the Supreme Court to bring her back. Well, wait a second. So I believe I could be mistaken, but I believe she was a detective sergeant.
She's gonna get a lot of back pay.
So she's got that, but she also missed over promotions. So all those people she worked with were then have been promoted to lieutenant or been promoted to captain. She may come back. And
do you know if she's currently working in law enforcement?
No, she's not.
Okay.
No.
I mean, maybe she wouldn't want.
No, I think she got over $300,000. Of course, the taxpayers are responsible for that. She was already awarded that.
Yeah.
Now they've already ruled to give her job back, but the sheriff's refused. And this one's coming down the pipe pretty quick here. It'll be before the end of this month. So
it's hard to say if she'd even want to come back after 5 years and all that bad blood.
It's kind of funny because and I'm sure she's probably got mixed feelings about that too. But if it was me, I'd come back in there and kick my feet up on the chair and dare him to touch me. You already fired me wrongfully. Now what are you gonna do to me?
Well, I mean, it'd be great if he refuses the Supreme Court's ruling twice, because then that'll be easier for your election.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to accept it now.
Before. Yeah. Well, yeah, he didn't have a choice, or he'd be terminated. But yeah, it's just at this point, she's been 5 years. She's probably moved on with her life. She's definitely got her back pay.
Yeah, and I've met her. I've got to talk to her several times, and she's a wonderful person. I mean, she really is, and you can tell that she loved her job and she was devoted to the kids in the community, and so probably somebody you'd want,
Well, man, yeah, I mean, it sounds that way anyways, just based off of what we've talked about prior to even this conversation. Why don't we get her on the show? Well, after the ruling.
Well, I'll tell you what. Her husband was the former union president.
And she still got treated that way.
So he's no longer with the department, but I'll bet you that we can get him convinced to come on. Okay. I don't know if she wants, if she'd be willing 100% to come on, but I bet he would.
It would be great if we could get them both on.
Yeah.
As a husband and wife to tell their sides of the tales and to help the listeners, just give them more information from two different people.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand. She's been dragged through the mud. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's, if you look at, what they say she's terminated for, that's not what her papers say she was terminated for, or the reason they fired her. But now they've got all these excuses of why they fired her. Yeah, but so now you're like, well, wait a second, this isn't what I was fired for, but now you're saying this is what I was fired for, even though the documents say I wasn't fired for that.
Right. Well, so this is a good non-biased forum for her to express herself.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd be open to definitely welcoming her. And we've got the officers, the current officers that are going to want to come on, and we'll have them on probably, I'm guessing, the end of this month, or definitely by the 1st of September, and then we've got the former officers who are wanting to come on. So I think we'll make September a big month just to get it out there, to let the people that currently work there and the people that have previously worked there, let the public know that this is the stuff that's really going on. We're not making up things. We're being told by the officers right now, this is what's happening today, and it's all current. And these are the things that have happened in the past, and we'll let those officers tell their stories.
No, I think that our entire podcast is pretty, for the most part, non-biased when it comes to, we just call it what it is.
Right.
I mean, last show we congratulated the sheriff on 35 years
yeah.
of law enforcement. I mean, when there's something to say, we got to give credit where credit's due. This time, we rightfully, that was some weird stuff, contacting the ex, but that was worth saying. And, and there's this, it just goes to show you that it's having a profound effect. So congratulations to you, Mike, for stirring up somebody to call an ex-wife just to try to find dirt. That's so I mean, you're doing your job. You're getting out there in the community. The community's supporting you. This podcast is getting heard. We're almost at 400 listenings now. So I mean, that's pretty big. And you're pounding the pavement, man.
Yeah, we're hitting. We're trying to be at every event we can be at, and we're getting out there in the communities. And one of the things, I hate doing this. I'm not, for those of you that are supporting us, we've got some radio commercials that we want to get started. We need to order more signs. Believe it or not, some signs get damaged, but I think I'm at like 400 to 500 signs. We need more signs. What people don't realize is those signs cost $9 a piece.
Right.
And
that adds up quick.
That adds up really, really quick. And you go order your first 150 signs, and you're like at $1,000. Right. And you're paying for this out of your own pocket. And I mean, we've got some donations, and we've got more. We're going to really start hitting it. But if you can, and you feel inclined to help, we can definitely use the money. You can Venmo me the money. Of course, if you do that, I got to have your name, your address, and your telephone number, because we have to report it. Yep. You can mail checks to me, and all that information's on my Facebook page on how to Venmo or how to mail a check. We really want to raise another $7,000 between now and the end of this month for our radio ads, for some big signs that we're going to be putting up on some buildings and some really, really high traffic areas. Yep. So really excited about those people that reached out to us within the last week saying, please put buildings on my signs, or please put signs on my buildings. And then we've got a couple other things. We're going to have a mobile billboard that is going to be starting up. We got the graphics for that sent in. So, most of this has been paid out of. Well, let me put it this way: I paid a lot more than I brought in. So.
When the disclaimer says funded by Mike Gage, for sure.
It's been funded by Mike Gage.
Funded by Mike Gage, for sure.
Yeah. So every dollar does help, and we can definitely need it and use it for the upcoming next couple months. So we're getting close. We're just a few months away from the general, and we've got a lot more topics to cover, and thankfully we're not having to search for topics. They just seem to find us. Watch the news, watch the
content is plentiful in this administration.
Yeah, they're helping us out a lot right now. So,
well, we always thank you for coming on, Mike, and helping bring awareness to the community for all the shenanigans, we'll call it, from overcrowding in the jail to no toothpaste and toilet paper to everything else, to the dispatchers being overworked, to morale being low, to lack of training on all accounts. I mean, it's just, everybody listening and everybody in our community can easily see that this is, they've lost control of the sheriff's department,
right?
And it needs to be brought under control. And so get out there and vote for Mike. We got election days. What are we at? What are we? How many days away are we now?
I don't even keep track.
7 days, 80. It's coming up. Well, it's November 5th. But
yeah,
I don't
November
know.
5th. And hopefully they'll keep. If calling my ex is getting me $450, maybe I can go out to her family and get them to start donating some money too. So so keep calling. It's making me money. I'm appreciative of it.
Get them on that commercial that tattles about what you did when you were in kindergarten.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely something that we need the community support, and I think that we need to continue with fundraising.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mike, as nobody likes to ask for.
No, it's the word. It is the word.
It is just terrible, but that's the way politics works. You got to ask for money, and the state mandates this, so he needs everybody's information that donates to keep his books in order, because everything has to be transparent. And we don't want to do anything that's not transparent, right? Everything needs to be straight up the middle and on the straight and narrow. So try to help out where we can. Everybody, if you can donate, give. I mean, there's links on his Facebook. There's Venmo, QR codes. There's coming up soon on this Spotify. There'll be a link for you to donate to the campaign through our podcast.
And is that because we've done enough?
That's because
episodes
we've
with
done
him.
Enough.
Okay,
we're growing, and and we've done enough. So we need to get him some funds so we can keep this train running all the way to November 5th, and then into that seat over there at the police headquarters that doesn't apparently have a whole lot of people sitting in it. Maybe some of those missing Mike Gage signs, when you get in there, you'll find them in the desk drawer there next to the crime statistics that we can't find. What's all Mike Gage and all the claws? Like, damn, there's all those signs.
Yeah, well, it's politics. So
and then those violent crime statistics fall off and hit you in the shoe under the desk.
That's what I want to find. The signs that go missing. That just happens, and of course, there's people I've spoken to that have put up signs, and then they start getting calls from the sheriff's department command staff wondering why they're supporting me, and to take down my sign. So
you can't abuse, but that's civil liberties. That's your ability to freedom to vote. You can't.
I know on 2 occasions that has happened. Two people have reached out to me and said that certain command staff called them, wanted to know why they had my sign up, and that they needed to be supporting the current administration. And so
it's like a subtle way that the mafia used to influence voters back in the day. Like, I hate for your deli to burn down if you don't vote for my candidate. What an unfortunate turn of events for you. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Like, man, it's America. It's our freedom. You can vote for whoever the hell you want to without having to explain to anybody why you did it. Period. That's it.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. But we'll get there.
We will. We're getting close. But for this week and for episode 5, that's all.
Okay.
And Mike, I want to thank you. Everybody listening, I want to thank you for listening to our rhetoric for the last hour and 3 minutes. And we'll be back on Friday to deliver more news and updates for Butte Silverbow Sheriff and all of our community, and events that Mike will be announcing. Keep an eye out. He'll announce probably about a few hours before the event, the day of the event.
when the event starts.
When the event starts, yeah. That way his counter fan club won't.
Yeah. I like to keep it to myself. I like to have the whole entire audience for myself if possible.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Well, so yeah, look for those alerts that he's en route to an event.
Yep.
Go see him. He's a great guy. Go meet him. Go shake his hand, and get out there and vote. Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it. We'll see you all next week.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See y'all later.